early childhood. At his children home, King and his two siblings would read although biblical scripture as instructed by their father. After dinners, their King's grandmother Jenny, who have affectionately referred to as a mama, would tell lively stories from the Bible to her grandchildren. King's father would regularly use whippings to discipline his children. At times, King Senior would also have his children whip, which other King's father later remarked was the most popular curricular, and whenever you whipped him, he wouldn't stand there and the tears would run down and he wouldn't never cry. Once, when King witnesses his brother AD emotionally upset his sister Christiane, and he took a telephone and knocked out AD with it. When he and his brother were playing at their home, AD slid from a banister and hit it into their grandmother's Jenny's, causing her to fall down unresponsive. King, believing her dead, blamed himself and attempted suicide by jumping from a second story window. Upon hearing that his grandmother was alive, King rose and left the ground where he had fallen. King becomes friends with the white boy whose father owned a business across the street from his family home. In September 1935, when the boys were about 6 years old, they started school. King had to attend a school for black children, Young Street Elementary School, while his close playmate went to a separate school for white children. Only soon afterward, the parents of the white boys stopped allowing King to play with their son and stating to him, "We are white and you are colored." When King realized the happening to his parents, they had a long discussion with him about the history of slavery and racism in America. Upon learning of the hatred, violence, and oppression that black people had faced in the U.S., King would later state that he was determined to hate every white person. His parents instructed him that it was his Christian duty to love everyone. And King witnesses his father stand up against the segregation and various forms of discrimination. Once, when stopped by the police officer who referred to a King Senior as a boy, King's father responded sharply that King was a boy but he was a man. When King's father took him into a shoe store in downtown Atlanta, the clerk told them they needed to sit in the back. King's father refused sitting. We will either buy shoes sitting here or we won't buy any shoes at all. Before talking King and leaving the store, he told King afterward, "I don't care how long I have to live with this system. I will never accept it." In 1936, King's father led hundreds of African Americans in a civil rights march to the City Hall in Atlanta to protest voting rights discrimination. King later remarked that King Senior was a real father to him. King memorized and sang hymns and stated verses from the Bible by the time he was 5 years old. Over the next year, he began to go to church events with his mother and sing hymns while she played a piano. His favorite hymn to sing was "I Want to Be More and More Like Jesus." He moved attendance with his singing. King later became a member of the junior choir in his church. King enjoyed opera and played the piano as he grew up. King gained a large vocabulary from reading dictionaries and constantly used his expanding lexicon. He got into physical altercations with boys in his neighborhood, but oftentimes used his knowledge of words to stem fight. King showed a lack of interest in the grammar and spelling, a trait which he carried out throughout his life. In 1939, King sang as a member of his church choir in slave custom for the all-white audience at the Atlanta premiere of the film Gone with the Wind.